Hi everybody, my name's Lily and I'm the book reviewer behind Utopia State of Mind, and today I'm doing my December wrap-up, which sort of seems like a controversial take because I feel like at the end of the year no one really does a December wrap-up just because everyone's focused on end of the year wrap-ups, 2025 wrap-ups in this case. But I wanted to talk about some really exciting books that I read and some statistics and kind of round out the year. So we're going to start off 2025 with a December wrap up. I'm holding the mic because I have a lot of books to show you, and then I'm going to actually stick the mic on top of the books. So let me first show you all of the physical books that I read in December. Here we go. So first of all, how was December? December was intense. I visited family for the holidays. I feel like the holidays can either go one way or two ways, I guess. They can be either very, very relaxed or very, very stress-inducing because the holidays are an intense time. Lots of things are going on. For me, it was kind of middle of the road, at least. More on the relaxed side, I guess, of things, just because there's always a predictable sense of kind of what's going to happen. There are date constraints, everything like that. I had an interesting month where a lot of unexpected things happened to me. And yeah, it was just like really weird. A few things that happened to me, I guess, was that like I was walking around in New York City and someone like randomly punched me like in the back. That was a thing that happened. I got food poisoning in December as well. If you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen that. And yeah, those were some really interesting things that happened to me in December. In terms of making things, I made a lot of balaclavas. I will put a picture here of the two balaclavas I made at the beginning of December, basically. As sort of I guess it was kind of finishing the last couple days of November into the first couple days of December. So here we go there. And I've read the least I think I've read all year in December, which makes sense because it was a really intense month. But even so, I read 66% of those with characters of color as main characters, and only 16% of those featuring queer characters as main characters. I swear, actually the percentage is higher. I was going through and kind of doing the math now, but I remember reading some books and being surprised and remembering that there was representation, but I couldn't really remember which ones. So I swear that it's over 16%. I just don't know what it is precisely. And I want to talk about some standout books that I read. So the first one, which has to be the highlight, if you saw my video, which I will link down below, which are my feelings on Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang, you will know how I feel about it. So I won't talk too much about it because you can watch the whole video. But I loved that book. 5 stars. I predicted it was going to be 5 stars, and it was. It was my favorite book of December. But I do want to mention some honorable mentions for December that I read that I really wanted to chat about today. And then I also want to talk about one that was like super, super hyped. I'm sure it's going to be on a lot of people's sort of consciousness, and I will chat about that too at the end, which is kind of this mini segment I've been introducing where I talk about hyped books and like what I felt about them. The first one I want to talk about is I Was a Teenage Slasher. I really enjoyed the Angel of Indian Lake trilogy series before. Don't Fear the Reaper is my favorite of the 3. So I was really intrigued by I Was a Teenage Slasher, which feels sort of meta in the sense that if you've read the first series or the other previous series, you'll know a little bit more about the final girl lore, and that definitely is in I Was a Teenage Slasher. There's this kind of meta feeling to all of these horror genre conventions, which I don't know anything about because I'm not a horror girly, but it surprisingly was really emotional at the end. Like, you end up feeling feelings for this teenage slasher or like for this main character, which you do not expect to be feeling. And the end is pretty interestingly nebulous, I would say. So definitely recommend that one. It's a definitely different vibe than the Angel of Indian Lake books. So definitely worth recommending or checking out. The next one I want to chat about is Immortal, which is, it just came out. I'm filming this actually on release day. So beautiful, so shiny, so pink. Immortal was super, super swoony. If one of the things you really, really loved about Daughter of the Moon Goddess was the romance element, Immortal is super, super swoony. Some of the revelations and yeah, revelations, I guess, for this took me just out of left field. I loved this kind of line between pretending and realism in the terms of, are their feelings for each other real? There's tons of betrayal. There's a lot of interesting conversations about immortals and mortals and kind of what each of them might envy about each other in a mortal. The next one is X Marks the Spot. I've been following Gloria since American Panda, and X Marks the Spot has to be one of my favorites, not only because it's rivals to lovers, exes, like sort of exes, second chance romance. That element is super, super cute. There's also the element that of the scavenger hunt. So basically the main character goes on a scavenger hunt to kind of uncover secrets about her family past. That element was really cute. There's a lot of puzzles. It has a sort of scavenger hunt puzzly vibe to it, which I've been loving in 2024. And thirdly, it talks a lot about our different feelings about home, and like she doesn't have, her mom has really kind of pushed them trying to assimilate and not necessarily have a really strong connection to Taiwan in this case. And that one really resonated with me because we see a lot of different characters who are going through different stages or different cultural touch points about how they feel in relation to Taiwan and their, you know, where their family was from or where they maybe grew up or, you know, all of those kinds of things. And I really appreciated those conversations in X Marks the Spot. And the final one is the Hysterical Girls of Saint Bernadette's by Hannah Alkov. I've really been enjoying Hannah's books for a really long time, and I honestly did not see that this book was coming out until it came out already. And I was like, oh, I need to be reading this one. So I didn't really know what to expect when going into the Hysterical Girls of Saint Bernadette's, but this story has sort of like a horror haunted suspense thriller to it. So Queen of Tiles was, I feel like, the last book I read from this author, and it also had that sort of mystery suspense, high impact, action packed story. So if you liked that one, this one has very much in that same vibe. Except it makes a statement about kind of the ways that society discounts women and girls and the way that it doesn't necessarily see what they're going through, that it silences them in general. And that was such a powerful theme, which is combined with this suspense feeling to it that made it really fabulous. And now I want to chat about some highly anticipated sequels, which you probably saw in my kind of whole books I read, I guess, part, and I'm just going to share really quick thoughts on them. So first of all, we have Heavenly Tyrant, which is the long-awaited series sequel to Iron Widow, and I didn't have time to reread Iron Widow, and while it took me a little bit of time to get into Heavenly Tyrant, I did, but there are some things in it that like felt really out of character for me. Part of the things that I really liked about Iron Widow were the character dynamics between the three, sort of the main character and like the two other sort of side characters in that kind of love triangle-ish relationship. And I don't know if it was just me, but like this one, that vibe felt very, very different. And some of the actions from some of the characters I didn't really feel like were what I expected from them. That's obviously on me and my own expectations, but I was a little bit confused by some of the actions, specifically some of the new relationships and new alliances that are formed in Heavenly Tyrant. So if you've read it, please let me know what you thought. I'm trying to be as vague as possible to avoid potential spoilers. The next one is An Honored Vow, which I loved. This is such a fabulous series finale. It ties up everything well in a way that it's kind of hard because it's a 4-book series, and in a lot of ways I think people are expecting either like 3 books or more, or like 3 books period. So I really was not sure what to expect for this one, but it really ties up all the ends really nicely. What has to be very, very difficult endeavor. I don't know if there were like more ones planned, and so this one kind of talks about sort of what we will do if there's a future, or like what is there if there is a future afterwards, after we've accomplished the thing. And I really enjoyed this theme in this one because the whole kind of other books before this were focused on like the battle, we're focused on like that goal, but what would happen to us if we kind of fulfilled that goal, I think is a question that not a lot of books contend with. And so that was one of my favorite things about An Honored Vow. um in terms of rating, I don't know if it's the highest rating in terms of the whole series for me, in terms of which books I think were rated the highest. A Broken Blade might still be my favorite one in terms of the highest rated of all the four. The next one I want to talk about is actually The Songbird and the Heart of Stone, which I mentioned in my special edition books that I was getting, and this is it. I did not like this as much. I felt like I really, really enjoyed The Serpent and the Wings of Night in a way I did not expect, and I was like, I'm fully committed. Let's go. And I got all of those ones, and every like subsequent book I've kind of enjoyed a little bit less. The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King I didn't enjoy as much, just because the things that I was really drawn to weren't there, and that was just kind of the fault of where the story's going. Like, I'm not blaming the story. We can't have a deadly competition forever, and it did contend with kind of some interesting themes. Also, the light has completely gone away, but this one I know is a separate kind of next universe, and for me here, the world was very difficult to understand. It's like the same world, so you would assume that it would be very, very easy to understand, but for some reason, this felt completely different to me than the first duology, and we're like in a different part of the world, I guess, than in the first ones. Also, like the main character and her reluctance to reach out to the characters from the first one, I understand is her character, like that's her thing, but I was kind of like, I wish these people were back. I don't know, I will read the fourth one and the next one to this one, but I just remember being kind of disappointed, and this kind of cementing my feelings about each one of them not being as enjoyable to me. So I'm not sure if I'll actually buy that one where I bought this one. And the last one is A Monsoon Rising. This is a sequel to the Hurricane Wars. I will link down below my blog post about the Hurricane Wars and my thoughts on the Hurricane Wars. I enjoyed it, but not for the reasons that a lot of people were talking about it. Like, I did not like the romance in that one. This one to me is super, super into the romance, super into the character dynamics. I really loved the politics and the world building from the first one. That's what really kind of got me invested. This one was lacking in that one. I understand here we're trying to really delve into their relationship, and I greatly appreciated that. I love having these moments which we're able to see them kind of come together, see them interact with each other more. I have a really hard time with enemies to lovers in the sense that often we don't get, in my opinion, enough experiences of them before they like switch to lovers, basically. Here we're seeing a lot more kind of like, are we really enemies, are we really lovers, can we be both, while also having some spice, and while also having some, scenes where they're still opening up to each other. I did appreciate that. But the politics, to me, were kind of lacking in this book. And maybe it's kind of a direct response to some other things, in the series. I will still read the third one. This is a special edition. I went to the launch event for A Monsoon Rising in New York City. I'm still invested in the series, but that's just kind of my thoughts on it. And so that concludes my December wrap up. I hope that you all had a really good end of your 2024 year. Please recommend down below to me the one book you would really recommend from 2024 that I read. An incredibly difficult question. I'm very sorry for posing that. And I will see you in the next video and all of the 2025 celebration content. All right, bye.